So we're bringing on our first guest, and tonight we have three guests are who have books that are historical in nature in some form. So they're completely different from each other, but they're all historical in nature. And then we have one novelist. So we are happy to have for our first guest Patti Flinn, and Patti is from Black Lick, Ohio, and she's joining us with a book about someone I never heard of, which is really unusual. I and she takes a different take on it. She has a whole history of the person, and the book is called The Truest Son of France. So, Patti Flinn, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. You want to make sure you unmute.
I'm mute. Can you hear
Okay.
me now?
Yes. Yes.
Hi. Happy to
Hi.
be here.
Okay.
Well, we're happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you're in Black Lick, Ohio. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm close. I used to be.
Okay.
I
All
moved,
right.
but close enough.
But you're in the middle of in the Midwest, and it's cold there.
It is cold, and it happens suddenly. I know it's Ohio and you're supposed to be used to it, but I just like to ease into it. But we don't get that.
Well, it was 85 degrees in Houston. So we
Well,
are hoping we had a
it was
couple of
49 degrees in DC.
Yeah,
Wow.
we were hoping we had a couple of cool days, and then it went right back up. So that, but they're saying the rain is supposed to cool things off later in the week. So because it's too hot, we normally
That's
aren't 85 in November. We
yeah, that's
normally
hot.
are like high 70s,
That's
but
hot.
it's humid. So anyway, enough about the weather. The truest son of France. Now, tell us about the person who's essential to this book and what made you go down this path to talk
So,
about him.
yes.
Mhm.
So, a couple years back, I've been writing for a long time. I'm not famous or anything like that, but I've been writing for a long time. And a couple years back, I was a little uninspired with my writing, and I was thinking about quitting. And I just happened to be on Pinterest, and I was just looking at art on Pinterest, and I ran across this image of this Black man, and there was a caption that said he lived at the Palace of Versailles, which was a shock to me because that was my language. I thought I knew a little bit about France. I'd never know that there was a Black man who lived at the Palace of Versailles. And then they said that he actually later on, he was gifted to the mistress of the king. Many years later, he would turn her into the Revolutionary Tribunal during the French Revolution. And I got excited. I said, there's a story here.
Absolutely, there's a story.
Yeah. So I decided to do a lot of research. I'm not a historical history person, at least I wasn't until I started this story. And I started doing a lot of research. There wasn't a whole lot of information on him. The downside to that is you don't have stuff that you can pull from, but the good side is that you can use your imagination and fill in a lot of the blanks. And so, what I wanted to do, because I felt that what I was reading about him was biased and it was so obviously, now we look at it, of course, it's so obviously racist. It led me to question everything that I had been reading about him because all of the memoirs and everything I read was negative about him. They said he was a horrible person. He did this horrible thing, and he was so happy that he did this to this woman, sending her to her death. And I thought, that's acceptable if you're looking at him as a character, not as a person or a human being. And I knew there had to have been a story there, especially when I found out that he came to France enslaved. He was a child slave. And, it turned the whole story on its head for me because it changed what I thought about the king, what I thought about Jean du Barry, and what I thought about his story. And so I wanted to tell that. I ended up writing three full-size books. So it's a trilogy. The first book is called The Greatest Thing. The second book is called The Devil's Berries. And the last book is coming out in December. It's called The Truest Son of France. And with it, it's just been a labor of love. It really has. I kind of felt that it was meant for me to write the story about this man that I'd never heard of before. I think somebody was supposed to tell a story. And I think maybe it was me.
It's I'm really glad that you did tell a story because there are so many figures in our history who have been villainized because only a certain faction told their story and they told their story the way they wanted to tell their story. And
Hmm.
we never hear the real thing. And when I remember doing research on Akhenaten, who was an Egyptian king, and he was hated, and they tried to erase him out of history. If you look at any of his statues, they were all chiseled out because they didn't want you to see his face. They
Hmm.
always made his statues look like he had woman hips. They wanted to do everything that they could to villainize this man's name just because he didn't subscribe to the multi gods that they
Hmm.
were worshiping at the time.
Hmm.
And so we see that this happens throughout history. When you want to villainize somebody, tell the story the way you want to tell the story, because there aren't very many people who are going to argue with you or dispute that.
Exactly. And when I was writing this story, I knew that what I was going to do to Jean Dubarry. I didn't intend to do what I did to her in the beginning, but I made her this. Uh, Once I found out his story, and once I thought what I knew his story was, it changed her. It changed my perspective of her. And I was a little bit worried because I thought everybody's writing about how she was this wonderful person. And was she a wonderful person? I don't know. We don't have the records. All I know is, all I know is for over 200 years, they've been saying horrible things about him and nothing negative about her. So my story is not going to be a drop in a bucket in weight of undoing 200 years of negative press that he's gotten. So I stopped worrying about that.
Okay, give us his
Mm.
full name because I don't think we said it at the top.
Ah, his name is Louis Benoit Zamore. And
And what years in France are we talking about?
so
What
he
19?
is, yeah, he was suspected to have been born in 1762 in India. He was taken into slavery. He ended up in France around 1772. He was either gifted to or bought by King Louis XV, who then gifted him to Madame Jeanne du Barry. Um, he would live with them until the king died. In 1774, when the king died, Jeanne du Barry was exiled because she famously had a horrible relationship with Marie Antoinette. They hated each other. So Marie Antoinette kicked Jean du Barry out of the palace, kept Zamore there for a couple of years, and then a few years down the road, they released her from exile, and she took him back along with her property to live at Chateau Lucien in a little kind of a little suburb next to Versailles. And he would stay there with her for over 20 years. Unbeknownst to her, he started going into Paris and he met some revolutionaries before it was a revolution. He became a Jacobin. He believed in the rights of man. He believed in freedom and equality. He believed in all of these things that, we believed in that made the United States that we were supposed to believe here in here. He believed in all that. So, but by day, he was going back to the chateau and still being her servant. So it wasn't until 1793 that he was found out. She discovered that he was working for the revolutionaries, and they had a huge fight. She kicked him out. A little while later, she was arrested. She ended up going to the guillotine.
Mm.
And so for many, many years, people have been blaming him and calling him a traitor for having turned on her because she was so close to him. And they were very, very close. But what we understand is that the closest that you experience as someone who's trapped with someone. It's different from the closest that you would have if they were an actual friend or relative or somebody you wanted in your life. so my take was a little bit different. I didn't see their relationship as close as everyone else seemed to see it. And so in my way of thinking, he didn't betray her as much as he protected himself. And I really, I think he kind of had to.
I'm
Probably
always skeptical when I read something that someone wrote about someone else and they tell you that person's motivations or what they were thinking. You don't know what they were thinking unless they told you. You can't assume what somebody's thinking. And a lot of times people will assume something that's completely false. And that happens today. That happens just in regular life. Someone can misread your motives, ascribe something to you that's not there or the opposite of what your thoughts are, or maybe you're not even thinking at all about what they're talking about, you know. And then but what I don't like is when someone writes it about someone else. And we see that often in journalism or books that are written about people, well, where they'll say that person's thinking was, how do they know what their thinking was? Unless that person said it. And if they said it, it should be a quote.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think this is the reason why I enjoy the movie Wicked so much. The first time I ever experienced the story was when I went to see the play, and I realized that the Wicked Witch of the West was villainized because of the color of her skin.
Huh.
And because of the way they told the story, they made it seem like she was a villain, but she was really misunderstood. And so I was excited when I got to see the movie, and then I read the book, and the book totally shows how she was misunderstood, even to the battle with what's the little girl's name?
Dorothy?
Dorothy?
Dorothy.
Dorothy?
Yeah. The battle with Dorothy, it was all misunderstood.
I
I was
still
about to
haven't
say
seen Wicked.
I haven't seen it either. I
Haven't
don't
seen-
know if I'm not compelled. It's not something that I'm compelled to go watch.
well, I mean, whether you're compelled or not, I mean, that's the thing is that's really what the story is about, is how the Wicked Witch of the West was actually villainized because of the color of her skin. And
Which
that's
was
why I was really
green.
interested,
Green, the
right?
green
Because
color.
she was green. She was the
Okay.
only green person in the country. And
Okay. Interesting.
that's why I thought it was interesting that they made the Green Witch or the Wicked Witch of the West a black woman when they decided to do the movie. I was like, that's an interesting turn.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now the Louis that you wrote about, that you said he was depicted at a museum. Was that what you said? You saw a painting or something. What did you
Oh,
say at the top of at the
so
beginning?
I saw a little image of him on Pinterest.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Somebody took a picture of his portrait actually is hanging. Well, what there's a lot of controversy about Louis Benoit Zamora, from his
Okay.
ethnicity to his actual age to how he ended up there. There's a portrait hanging in a museum in Florida, actually, that for many years was thought to be him, and now they're saying maybe it's not him. I suspect it is him. um,
Mhm.
but of course, I can't prove any of this. I am so wanting someone to read my books and just remember something or find something, because I feel like there's information about him out there somewhere that we just don't have yet. And I'm dying to get my hands on it.
Now, you said that you speak French. Is that,
I
did I
I
misunderstand?
I took French. I'm
Okay.
trying to relearn French. My
Okay.
French has never been really great. I
Okay.
went to
It's
France
hard to learn.
and I tried to speak it, and they were so nice to me. They really were.
Mhm.
Because I was just embarrassed of myself trying to speak French. But
And
I'm
it's so
trying.
funny when in France you're sitting there struggling with the language because you want to be respectful and try to speak it, and then they'll say, I speak English. I'm like, no, you speak English.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's the only language that I took in school.
Oh yeah?
My only foreign language. I didn't take Spanish because I was on the East Coast. I know I did really well in French.
Yeah, did you keep
Mhm.
it? Do you
No, I
still?
only know bonjour and au revoir. That's about it.
Okay.
Oh, je m'appelle. I know how to
Okay.
do my name. And my
I,
name actually
I
is
lived
Genevieve in
in
French, but it's Guinevere in English.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
well,
yeah.
I
I
lived
had
in
a one.
Belgium for 5 years.
Do they speak
And
French in Belgium?
yes, well, it depends on which part of Belgium. I lived in the French speaking part of Belgium, but there's also a Danish part of Belgium.
Okay.
Um, I lived in the French part of Belgium, and I tried. I think I might have picked up a couple of words, but I worked around too many Americans, so I couldn't keep it going.
That's the thing, unless you're in it all the time,
Right.
you lose it. But I'm trying. I go back, I'm gonna do better.
Yeah, and it's not a language that's spoken in America a lot, in a lot of places. Whereas Spanish is really increasingly becoming like the second language. And I'm in Texas, so it's all around me. But I still don't. I only know about 12 words, and I know enough to uh, get my point across. But now you have those apps on the phone where a person can just talk into their phone and then it's not always exact. The interpretation is not always exact. But um, a lot of the people here that do any kind of construction work, inside maintenance work, landscaping, they're Hispanic. And a lot of them don't speak very little English.
Mhm.
So, but I know about 12 words and that's it. But I was very good at conjugating verbs in French. When I took French, a lot of the lessons are conjugating verbs, and I was really good at that. I was really good at French. I had a wonderful teacher, um, a wonderful black woman who she was actually my fourth, fifth, and seventh grade teacher because she kept moving. Each year, she said the higher grades she got paid more, so she kept moving, and then when I went to the sixth grade, she was already teaching the seventh grade. But she went on an international trip. It was unusual. She went around the world with the International Reading Association or somebody like that. And she came back with slides about France and Holland and places she went. So she was showing us slides and she gave us all our names, our French names, like the whole class. This was in fifth grade, I think. She gave every class member their name in French. She
Oh
had
yeah.
cards that she put on the table on their desk. So we all called each other by our French names. And then she taught us some verbiage. She was an amazing teacher. So that's why when it was time to pick an elective, I ended up picking French
Mhm. Mhm.
because uh, it fascinated me. But the ideas we have about France are that it wasn't really a prejudice place because a lot of Americans who were escaping the racism here would go to France, but
Mhm.
they got rid of slavery years before we did. When did slavery end in France? Do you know?
It ended the first time in 1794 and the second time in 1848, I believe.
Oh, so they
So,
reinstituted it?
yes,
Oh,
Napoleon
oh,
reinstituted slavery in
oh,
in Haiti, in Saint Domingue. So
okay,
there was, France is an interesting place because technically they didn't have slavery in France. Their motto was "There is no slavery in France" because they didn't have it on the mainland, but they
okay,
had all of their slavery in
and
United States and in the islands, and so
okay.
they did engage and profit from slavery. But yeah, I'd always
You,
heard that France was a safe place to go as well.
but
Safe
did
for.
you
Mhm.
there is a monument in Paris. It looks like chain links.
Mhm.
And so you know what monument I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a monument that honors or memorializes the end of slavery in France. So it's
Yes.
very interesting to hear that because they must have thought it was around somewhere for them to have erected that monument.
Yeah, well, yeah, the monument's relatively new.
It is.
Uh,
Okay.
It is.
but
Okay.
but yeah, and I don't want to say that I do still think it's a great place for Black people. It really is. But they did go through some of the same things that we go through here in the United States. They didn't have, like I said, they didn't have the same degree of slavery. Um, how do I say this? It was pretty brutal in Haiti. It was pretty brutal in the islands,
Mhm.
as brutal as it was down south. But the people on the mainland didn't see any of that. Um,
Okay. So it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
exactly. And sometimes some of the nobles would bring their enslaved people to France, but they, under very limited and regimented circumstances, so they weren't supposed to keep they were allowed to visit with their enslaved people, but they weren't allowed to keep their enslaved people there. Some people got around that. There were some outposts of enslaved people on the mainland, so it was really complicated. It was really different from the way it was here in the United States, which is one of the challenges of doing this research. I didn't understand any of that.
Do
I
you
didn't
think that
understand.
do you think that it's because what we learned when we went to Amsterdam is that there was slavery there, but they didn't like to call it slavery. They don't like to talk about it. And so they'll say things like they worked, or they won't say that it was actually
Yeah.
slavery. So I wonder if that was maybe the case a little bit in France as well.
I think so. And I think also they were downplaying it as as
Mhm.
they're doing right now, downplaying what it really is and making it seem as though they're just people who are working for us. They're just people who are happily working for us and they're being taken care of. And if you don't see it, you don't have to know. You don't have to think about it. Um,
Right.
but there
That was
were.
the way they sold it
Mhm.
to slaves, although they didn't have any options. But, they had them believing that they couldn't take care of themselves and that they were taking care of them. And when it was just just enough of an existence for them to be able to work. Because in order to work, you have to have food and, you have to be decently fed,
Mhm.
you know, to have
Mhm.
the energy to pick crops. You can't do it on an empty stomach. So it was all for self-preservation in terms of the landowners or the slave owners. It was really for their own benefit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. So what are your plans in the future? Do you plan to visit France more in the future? And
I will go back. I've been back. I've been there twice now. I will go
okay,
back again because I've done this research for this trilogy. I'm kind of deep in that time period and that place right now. I have
okay,
another series based on a character from this novel. Her name is Veronique, and people seem to love Veronique. So she's a young Black woman from Burgundy. So, um, so I'm probably going to do some more with her because I like the perspective from a young Black woman in a time that doesn't is not considering what she's doing in the world. And there was a whole lot going on during the time. So I'm going to lean into her story.
well, there's a saying that history is told from the vantage point of the victor whenever there's conflicts, wars, or
Exactly.
whatever.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm. So if you didn't win or your side didn't win, then your history either gets completely erased or it gets misinterpreted or, uh, you
And
know,
and thus the reason why,
it's
Patty, your
so
books
important.
are so important
Yes.
because um it could be if it hadn't been for you, nobody would ever know this man's story.
Oh,
Right.
that's a very nice thing to say. I His story is out there, bits and pieces of it, and he shows up in media here and there.
Here and there.
Um, yeah, but I don't think a lot of people in the United States knew anything about him. So I'm very pleased to get this out hear, and I appreciate the fact that you say that, because it means a lot to me. Because there's the writer me that, my ego. I love to write a story that's fascinating, but there's also the fact that I wrote this because of him, and I wanted to get his story out there too. So thank you.
Okay, now what's your background? Are you a professor? Do you teach? What is your like day job? Oh, wait, I mean, if you can say.
No, I'm in administrative support. So I do not teach.
Okay.
Though I thought I might want, at one point in my life. But it's interesting because some of my characters end up teaching. Zamora ended up teaching. Um,
Okay.
Veronique, her mother ended up teaching. So I have an appreciation for teachers. And maybe someday, I've always thought maybe I'd be a substitute teacher. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's the topic
No.
you picked is one that people would call scholarly, and so that's why I thought maybe you were a professor. It's not your typical topic.
Well,
Yeah.
you can always market your book to the colleges, and maybe
You
they can buy
can.
the books in bulk, and it could be added to people's curriculum.
Wouldn't that be something? You
Yeah.
guys think a lot of my little story. Thank you. Giving me ideas.
It's great to bring people to light that are little known or unknown from the past and that are important, or just people we need to know. There's a lot of people that we know about that really haven't done very much of anything, but we know their names.
Yeah.
And so, we need to, and it's happening more and more. And you're an example of bringing people from the past into the present for us to know about them and what they're about
Thank
and
you.
what the contributions they make.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
did get a chance to speak at on a panel at a conference of the National Society of French Colonial National Society. I did speak on that.
Oh, okay.
And it was
Wow.
fascinating being in a room full of historians, because I am not a historian. This is all new to me.
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like I'm, wading in water that I'm not supposed to be in, but I enjoy doing it. And as I said, you know, I hope I prick their interest, because if the real historians um, dig at it more, maybe they'll find out more about them. So who
There you
knows?
go. There you
Who
go.
knows?
Yeah, and you are a historian because of all the work that
Yeah,
you've
don't say
done.
the
That
real.
makes you.
Don't
Don't
say the real
shortchange
historians,
yourself.
Patty.
Yeah, yeah. Don't shortchange yourself. So, but thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and congratulations on your book. Sounds
Thank you.
fascinating. Or
And
your series. It's a trilogy.
it's a
So,
trilogy. Thank you. And we should all get the three of us get together and help each other with our French.
I like that idea. I
okay.
like it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.